acquisition. I hope you've just been with the first topic and then setting your mind to think about something different. Okay? So, yeah, this is our topic for today, second language acquisition. Okay. A short biography of myself. My name is Walid. I think most of you have already known me, and I have a BA in TESOL from Abdulaziz University in Cairo, and I have a BA in TESOL again from the University of Jeddah. I've been teaching since 2000 for 17 years now. I've been here in the ELI. I joined the ELI in 2010, so I've been here for almost like 7 years. Okay. This is an overview of our session. The first thing we're going to have a look at is what we're going to define second language acquisition. The second part is it a foreign or a second language? We're going to try to differentiate between second and foreign language. Another differentiation we're going to draw our attention to is language acquisition and language learning. What is the difference between them? And then we're going to have a look at the acquisition barriers. What are the things that might stop us or stop learners from learning a second language? And then we're going to have a look at the three main approaches and methods of second language acquisition. The first one is the grammar translation, or the classical one, and then the audiolingual method, and then finally the communicative approach. And then we are going to end our session, inshallah, with reflection. Okay? So, for the first part, what is second language acquisition? So, can you try to think of a definition, or what do you mean by this? What comes to your mind when you think of second language acquisition?
How to understand the language.
How to understand, not use, just understand the language.
Understand the language, then you use it.
And use the language.
How to be able to speak and use the language in your life.
How to be able to use the language in real life situations. Any other definitions here? What do we mean by second language? Yeah, I mean, it's actually correct. It's the process of learning a second language, okay? It's also the study of this process. How do our learners acquire or learn another language? And what do we mean by second language? Second language is not just the language that, or the second language that our learners learn. If they are learning third or fourth or fifth language, if we are talking about a person who speaks 4 or 5 languages, every language he learns apart from the first language is called second language. Okay, so whether it's a second language or a target language, any other language apart from the first language that he's learning is called a second language. Okay. Is it foreign or second? Can you try to draw a distinction between these? What is the difference between foreign and second language?
Second language, and foreign is third or fourth language.
So second language is number 2?
Number 2. Just
yes.
number 2.
Okay. Yeah. Foreign is 3, 4.
Used more in society.
So you're more concerned about the number?
When there are more than one community who speak different languages, we use the second language as a means of communication.
Mm-hmm.
But foreign language, we teach it in a community, speak or use only one language.
So a foreign language is a language that we use only one language in a community. But if we speak more than one language, like in Canada, for example, or in some other parts of the world where they speak more than one language, you can call it the second language. Do you agree with this definition? Do you have any other ideas here? So what do you think of our Saudi students? Are they second language learners or foreign language learners? They are foreign language learners, that's true. But the difference is that foreign language, it refers to the language that's generally spoken in the environment where our learners study. So here in Saudi Arabia, our students cannot practice the language outside the classroom. So for them, it's a foreign language because it's difficult for them to use the language in real life outside the classroom. The only chance for them to practice the language is inside the classroom. So this is a foreign language for them. A second language refers to a learning or learning the language that's spoken in the surrounding community. So the same Saudi students that we have here, if they're studying in the United States or in Canada or in the UK, they would be second language learners if they move to another context. Okay, that comes from the dictionary, from Collins Dictionary, these definitions. Language acquisition and language learning. What is the difference between acquiring the language and learning the language?
Learning is more conscious, I guess, and acquisition is something that is happening without you unconsciously engaging.
Exactly, thank you. Yes, so learning is a conscious process, while acquisition is unconscious process. Thank you. That's a very good definition. Anything else that you have in your mind about acquisition and learning? Okay.
More natural.
Yes?
More natural.
Exactly, it's more natural. Yeah. Language acquisition doesn't require extensive use of conscious grammatical rules. Our learners, when they come to acquire a language, just like a child who requires his first language, they don't care much about grammar. What they need to do is to understand and to communicate in the target language. So they listen and they repeat, and they're not aware of the grammatical structure or rules that they need to use to produce a sentence. And it doesn't require actually tedious drills, because drills mainly happens in a classroom atmosphere. Acquisition requires meaningful interaction, okay? In the target language, I mean natural communication in the real world. Speakers are more concerned with the message, okay, that they need to convey to the speaker. They need to understand what's being said to them, and they need to convey the message, but they don't care much about the correction of the grammar. Okay, these ideas from question. Linguists explain that children acquire second language through subconscious, as our Muhammad said, subconscious process during which they are unaware of grammatical rules, just like as they acquire their first language. They get the feel of what's right and what's wrong. Like, for example, if you are talking to an illiterate person who speaks Arabic, for example, or speaks English, and then you make a grammatical mistake, he might feel that there's something wrong with the sentence, but he cannot define what exactly is wrong. Like if you say, "What you doing?" they might say, "There's something wrong in the sentence." But he might know that R is missing, okay, in your question, but he can't explain why. Okay, if you ask him about the grammatical structure, he can't give an answer. But he feels that there is something wrong, because this is the way he used to pronounce the words. Okay, and this is the way he used to listen to it. What they need is a source of natural communication. This is a teacher's role, is to create this kind of natural communication and to provide students with a real opportunity for communication in the classrooms. The emphasis here is on the text communication, not on the form. So again, the message that they need to convey. You need to take a photo? Okay. Learning, on the other hand, is a direct instruction, okay, based on the direct instruction of rules, of structures in a classroom atmosphere where the teacher explains everything. The teachers give the grammatical rule at the beginning and they get students to practice, okay, not deduce as in the acquisition. Students have conscious knowledge of the new language, and they can talk about this knowledge. They can't just use the language, they can also talk about the language itself. They can describe words, they can describe meanings, they can analyze words, they can tell whether this word is a subject or a verb, whether it's a noun, is an adjective, is an adverb, things like this. And they can also answer questions about grammar. They can fill out sheets, they can go through grammatical exams, and they can answer correct or create correct grammatical structures. It certainly is not an age-appropriate activity for young learners. Children who are learning the second language, it's difficult for them to explain that this is the present simple, and we use the present simple for no, these things are difficult for them. They acquire things, they understand them, they practice them, but then when they grow up a little bit deep, you can explain the reasons behind these things. It's difficult to teach young children about language rather than to practice the language. So what they need to know to do is to practice the language rather than learning about the language itself. The term acquisition is used to refer to the gradual development, okay, of acquiring a second language or the ability to use a language naturally in a community situation with other people that you can gain knowledge from. You can pick up words and structures from the people around you. The term learning, however, applies to a more conscious process of accumulating this knowledge, okay, of the features such as vocabulary, grammar, typically as in the institutional setting. Is mathematics, for example, learned or acquired? Can we acquire mathematics?
Yes, we can, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, just explain how.
Yeah, from nature, you can.
From nature?
Yes, from nature, you.
I mean, you might be able to acquire basic things, like you can say how many chairs, like counting chairs, by practice maybe you can acquire things like this. But multiplications, divisions.
Geometry was acquired, it was not learned.
Yeah, I mean the basics.
I'm a math teacher, by the way, I know these things.
Really? So I still believe that the basics can be acquired, but
Yeah,
but the science itself it has to be learned. I mean, if you keep a child in the natural atmosphere with his family, do you think after what age, if you did not confront him to any mathematical, issues, at what age do you think you would be able to count?
I think the way the knowledge of mathematics developed over a period of time, things were acquired, but now when we go to schools, we learn those.
Yes, exactly. So, but I still believe that it's more learned than acquired, completely different from the language, because language is practiced in everyday life.
Even math.
I'm actually thinking how much do I need to use math in my everyday life. Like I do use it, but how often? Maybe when I go shopping every day, I have to count the change.
Maybe because you are teaching
Yeah. Anyway, we have a math teacher who can tell anyway. So for this activity, it's a group work activity. You're going to be divided into groups of 4, and what you need to do is to match the expressions that they hand out and decide whether they reflect language learning or language acquisition. And please put the expressions in the right column next to the opposite. Okay? So groups of 4. So 1, 2, 3. To this activity? 3 minutes? Please put them next to each other. I mean, the opposite words should be next to each other. Okay, on the same line. You should be sharing ideas, working in a group.
Really?
Yeah. It's a group work activity. So, Nabil, could you please join this group?
Yes. And 2 and 3 have come up. We don't have the same topic.
Oh, oh, so there must be a mistake with handout 2 and handout 3, sorry. So you're only working in handout 1, please. I'll give you another copy. Yeah, please.
Thanks.
Let's have a look at the answers. Let's have a look at the answer together, please. Okay. Language acquisition and language learning. Natural language acquisition happens naturally, okay, in the real world where students practice the language, but the language learning is artificial because it happens in a classroom where students pretend that they are in a real life situation. Subconscious, students are not aware, okay, of that they are actually learning a language or they are picking up some vocabulary or structure, but this is learning is conscious process. Personal, students reflect and they talk according to their needs. But here, it's technical because they learn specific structures that they need to follow. The priority here in acquisition is given to the spoken language, but here is given to, it's more concerned with the language theory, how to teach and how to use this and that in different situations. Acquisition is meaningful, it cares more about the meaningful interaction, while learning cares about formal instruction. Okay? Inductive coaching, so the learners practice the language first, and then when it comes to fluency, when they become fluent with the language, they can deduce the rule. They can say, yeah, we use this form in this specific situation to express these ideas. But here, in language learning, it's inductive teaching. It's top down. That learners learn the structure first, and then they practice the structure. This one, the acquisition depends on attitude. You know, as students' attitude towards learning a second language, they mainly have the intrinsic motivation to learn a second language. Okay? But here it depends on their aptitude or their proficiency, okay, to learn a second language. Real life experience, this is what students encounter, and here a preset course or a syllabus that students need to follow. Focus on communication, again the focus is in form. In learning, in communication, it produces an ability to use the language, but this produces knowledge about the language. Okay? Correction mode in acquisition is, as we said, they feel the grammatical correction. They can feel that there is something wrong with the sentence, but they can't explain the reasons for that. While language learning, they correct using the grammatical knowledge. Students actually know what is right and what's wrong and why this is wrong, and they can explain it. Okay? Now let's move to the next part, is acquisition barriers. So when do you think it's easier to learn a second language? During childhood, teenage, or adulthood? Childhood. Can you give reasons for this? Why?
I say there's a scientific reason that the part of the brain that has just an acquired language is more functional during the early years of life.
Okay, so there are physical reasons for this.
Well, there was a very one time that there is a box called that language acquisition device inside the mind that actually at a particular stage starts getting information.
Okay.
About language.
So their level of acceptance or acquiring at younger age is much higher than when they grow up. Well, this is true actually. Some research suggests that the childhood is the best time to learn a second language. Mainly because of their willingness to take the risk. Young learners are not afraid of making mistakes unless the environment doesn't support that. Unless the teacher punishes them or their friends make fun of them because they make grammatical errors, for example. If this doesn't happen, they will continue to practice and experience and try saying new words and creating new structures all the time. Okay? So they have something, what we call it, the affective filter, which Krashen talks about. The affective filter is a kind of filter that's built inside the human brain, and this is responsible for the anxiety, the worries that we have about learning the second language. And like, if you remember one of your teachers, for example, when you were young, who punished you for doing something, and you hated math because the math teacher wasn't that good, or he was too harsh with the learners. So this kind of experience is affected by the affective filter. There is a filter that prohibits you from learning the second language. There is a reason for that. Okay? The lower the affective filter, the better students can learn because they are not worried, they are not afraid of making mistakes, they are more willing to take risks and experience new things. The higher the affective filter, the more difficult it is for learners to learn a second language. I read an experience in Yo's book about a teacher who said that his teacher punished him for saying something wrong and for he was studying Spanish, I think. He was an English native speaker and he was studying Spanish as a second language, and he made a mistake and the teacher punished him for making a grammatical mistake, and he said that he did not speak Spanish for the next 10 years because he was afraid of making another mistake and he was afraid of people around him making fun of him. So this comes as a result of the affective filter. Okay? It is also been proved that very few adults, seem to reach native-like proficiency. There was a study or research that was done on immigrants traveling to the United States, families, parents, and children who were learning a second language. When they traveled to the United States, it has been proved that adults were more proficient in writing and reading, while children were more proficient in speaking and listening. Okay, there are other research, for example, that suggests things like the adult son gets stiff by the time. Like, for example, if you think of German learners who are learning English as a second language, and they used to pronounce the W as the, and then when it comes to adulthood, and then you ask them to change this, it becomes too difficult for them, while it's still easier for young learners to change this. Okay, that's why we can say that some sounds in a language are more difficult for speakers in another language. Like the dot, for example, as we have in Arabic, it's difficult for others to pronounce. Okay, for other language speakers. In pairs, the second activity, this is acquisition barrier. We have some acquisition barriers here, and I want you to classify them, whether they mean social barriers, emotional barriers, biological, pedagogical, or cultural. Okay? So please. In pairs, you're going to do this, work in pairs. Has everybody signed? Everybody signed? Okay, yeah, got the answer? Let's have a look at the feedback. This is the answer. Social is like parental and family support. Okay, if they give support to learners who acquire or learn a second language, they would be more able to learn the language. L1 education and literacy, if the person is educated in his first language, it might have a positive effect on his learning process of the second language. Socio-economic status, somebody would have enough money to spend on learning. Peer group, the support of the group that he's working with. Motivation in psychological and emotion. The affective factors, as we said, anxiety, worry, self-confidence. Attitude towards learning, whether it's positive or negative. The self-belief, if they believe that it again relates to the affective factor and the attitudes towards learning the second language. Biological, the motor skills, the ability to pronounce words, to act in common situations. Age and health, sometimes a factor. Cognitive function, the ability to recognize forms and structures and vocabulary. L1 development. This is biological in the sense that some learners might have physical problems, some physical inability to use or to pronounce specific, utterances. Pedagogical could be things like type of method and instruction. How do teachers deliver learning sessions? Lack of learning skills or strategies. Some learners don't know how to learn, how to improve themselves, how to develop. Improper materials or curriculum. Little access to input, if the students don't have access to books, resources, pictures, internet, and stuff like this. Cultural could be values regarding risk-taking, openness. Language transfer and interference from L1 to L2. Some learners, or as we have in Arabic, the interference of L1 sometimes positive and sometimes negative. Like for example, we can find it easy for our learners to make correct sentences starting with the subject, because in Arabic we have a sentence that starts with the subject. So it makes sense for the learners. But it's more difficult to teach them the adjective and the noun, because in Arabic the noun comes first before the adjective. So the interference of L1 here is negative, not positive. Government policy and investment. Sometimes governments spend too much money on education and they support. Other situations, no. Dislocation, movement, and war. Some people may have to move to other places, and that may prohibit them from learning or acquiring a second language. Now we're going to move to another part, which is methods and approaches of second language acquisition. The first one, or the classical method of learning a second language, was the grammar translation method. It started in the 19th century. This is a definition from Jack C. Richard. It's a method of a foreign or second language teacher which makes use of translation and grammar study as the main teaching and learning activity. This approach emerges from the disappearance of the Latin language, the death of the Latin, because most of the texts, the written texts and books were in Latin at that time, and when Latin dies, they wanted to transfer the knowledge that was written in Latin books into modern languages. So the main focus at that time was to translate these transcripts into modern language. So what they mainly were concerned about was to translate these books or this knowledge into other languages. It's the oldest, as we said, sometimes it's called the classical or the traditional method of teaching, and we can see that some cultures around the world still use grammar translation. I mean, in Egypt, there's a question always at the end of the exam that asks students to translate from L1 to L2 and from L2 to L1, always in the exams. It's a main part of the exam, so the students have to learn how to translate from L1 to L2. Originated from teaching Latin, as we said, and became very popular in the 19th century. The focus was on reading and writing at the time, not communication. They didn't need to communicate the language. They just wanted to transfer the language or the knowledge from Latin to other languages. The focus was on the morphology and the syntax, to study the morphemes, the words, isolated words, of course, study the meanings of these words, the functions of these words, and the grammar, of course, not the communication. Grammar rules are learned deductively, so they teach the grammar and then get students to practice this by doing grammar drills, translating sentences from and to the target language. Classes are taught in the mother tongue. They didn't use second language inside the classrooms. Everything was taught in L1. Much vocabulary is taught in the form of lists of isolated words. So they give students lists of vocabulary so that they can memorize these words, and maybe later when they learn the structure, they can fit these words together to create a sentence. Disadvantages. Can you, in your group, please think for 2 minutes of the disadvantages of this method of teaching, the grammar translation? What are the disadvantages? Within your group. Okay, I'm not. I learned that you are a math expert. Yeah. This is the grammar translation. We translate words and meanings. So number one is not. Something? Did you use this? Because it wasn't. are there in the grammar translation?
In this method, listening and speaking is like it's ignored. You know, the focus on writing, grammar and writing all the time in translation. So listening and speaking, these are
missing.
skills that are ignored.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Any other issues here?
Grammar variation between languages. For example, the object, let's say the object is placed differently in English than it is placed in French.
Exactly, yes.
So
So the interference of L1 is negative effect.
exactly. So the entire sentence will be distorted in this way.
Exactly, yes.
If you do this.
Anything else? Yes? Here?
Language should be taught in context.
Exactly,
Should be
yes.
taught in context.
Oh, in meaningful
Yes.
context. Yes, Kimberly?
The focus in grammar translation method is on learning about the language rather than the language itself.
Exactly, yes. The students learn about the language, not learn the language itself. So it's good about learning about the language, but not learning the language itself. The students lack comprehension. They don't actually understand the language that they need to communicate. They just translate word for word. Okay? I remember a good example of this. One of my learners in Egypt, I gave them a task to have a conversation with a native speaker online and then print the conversation and bring it to the next week to the class. One of the learners said, was talking to a native speaker and he said, "Do you drink cigarettes?" And yeah, because this is an exact translation from L1. It's actually from the Egyptian accent because here they say smoke. In Saudi Arabia they use smoke. They say yudakhil. But in Egypt we say drink gishrobs again. So you know he translated the word as it is. So he asked the person, "Do you drink cigarette?" And the native speaker said, "Yes, we drink cigarette and we smoke Coca-Cola."
In the earlier part of language, they used to use the phrase.
Let's move to the next disadvantage. It doesn't allow students to create meaning in English. Okay. Yeah. So can I have some of the points that came up in your discussion?
The student might hear something, but he doesn't know what it means.
Okay. So they give the structure, but the meaning is missing.
Comprehension.
Comprehension. Yes, lack of comprehension. Lack of interaction, of real interaction.
Yeah.
Okay, real meaningful interaction, because the students might interact with the specific structures that they have to follow, but there is no creativity. Okay? It doesn't pay sufficient attention to communicative competence. So again, the students practice, but they practice specific chunks of the language, and they keep repeating this endlessly. Only language form is considered while meaning is neglected. The students, again, they practice structures, but the meaning is missing. Equal importance is not given to all the four skills. The more they give more importance to speaking and listening, but they didn't give enough attention to reading and writing. It's again a teacher-dominated method, just like the grammar translation. The teacher was providing everything to the learners, and they have to follow and repeat. It's a mechanical method. So since it demands pattern practice, drilling, memorization, over functional learning and organic usage of the language, just learn the basics, how to say this in this situation. Apart from this, they can't do anything. If the students encounter a real life situation, it's difficult because the answer that you may give for the same question could be hundreds. If I ask the same question to 10 people, I may probably get 10 different answers. Okay? So this part was missing in this method. The learner is in passive role with little control over the language. So they just, as we said, get the structure and they practice it. This is all what they can do.
They don't care about meaning.
Yes, exactly.
Not the structure.
Yeah. The method's insistence on repetition and memorization of standard phrases ignore the rule that context and knowledge in language learning. The context itself was missing. It can be, of course, incredibly boring because They learn this, they keep repeating and repeating and repeating, and then they memorize it, and they have to use this. This is the structure that they need to use. And then we came to the third approach, or the latest, which is the communicative approach, which emerged, I remember, in the 70s, in the early, mid-70s, I remember. It's partially a reaction against the artificiality of pattern and practice, and against the belief that conscious learning of grammar rules and language will necessarily result in language learning or language correct usage. So they were against the idea that these patterns or these repetitions will result in a person who can actually use the language in meaningful situations. Educators and linguistics felt that the students were not learning enough realistic language. What they learned is specific forms. They didn't know how to communicate using appropriate social language, gestures, and or expressions. In brief, they were at loss to communicate with the culture of the language studied. So they can practice in the class, but when it comes to the real world, it's difficult for them. They can't communicate because they don't expect the same reply that they get in the classroom. Another main feature is the communicative approach is based on the belief that functions of the language or what it's used for should be emphasized. So the function, the job of the language. We use the language for this purpose, so this purpose is our target, not just a specific pattern. It emphasizes the interaction of as a mean and a goal. Okay, so we learn, or let students learn through interacting to be able to interact. Change of focus from the teacher and the textbook to the learner. Now, the learners need to do more. They need to practice the language more. Errors are very common, just like children learn a second language. Okay? Or as they learn the first language. Positive and negative transfer from L1. As we referred to that before, the interference of L1 is now important in this approach. Classroom activities are characterized by meaningful and real communication. They started to show them videos, ask them to change, to create conversations of their own. Use of authentic materials like newspapers, videos, movies, magazines, pictures from the real world, and then ask students to talk about these things because they might encounter the same in real life. A teacher's main role here is a facilitator. His job is to create the opportunity for learners to interact, not just to give them a pattern to interact. Lessons are usually topic or theme-based with the target grammar hidden in the context. So not the main aim is the grammar, the main aim is the context, is understanding the context, but the grammar is just an aid to help learners use or communicate in this context. The lessons are built around authentic topics in the real world, things that students actually need in life, like, for example, asking for information, complaining, asking for directions, apologizing, job interviews, things that learners need in the real world. And then the emergence of the ESP English for specific purposes. They started to realize that some people, some jobs require specific forms of communication, like English for tourism, English for medical courses in English and stuff like that. The last activity is like a quick revision of the three approaches that we have just gone through. The grammar translation, the audiolingual, and the communicative. What you need to do is to look at the characteristics of each of second language acquisition theory and then put them in the right column, whether they reflect the grammar translation, audiolingual, or communicative approach. Okay, can we have a look together? Yeah? So let's quickly go through them. The first one, a teacher's main role is a facilitator, which method is this? Communicative approach, exactly. Became popular in the 19th century. This is the grammar translation, the first one. Interaction as both means and ultimate goal of the study. This is the community approach, emphasis on the acquisition of patterns in common everyday dialogues, or the audio-lingual learning, exactly. Classes are taught in the mother tongue, grammar. Set phrases are memorized with a focus on intonation, audio-lingual. The focus was on reading and writing, grammar translation, originated from the belief that all behaviors, including language, was learned through repetition. This is the audio-lingual. Errors are welcome, communicative approach. Grammar rules are learned deductively. How? Yes? Grammar translation. Yes. Correct responses are positively reinforced immediately. Audio. Use of authentic materials. Exactly. Based on habit formation. Audio-lingual. Lessons are usually topic or theme-based. Communicative approach originated from teaching Latin. Grammar translation. Use techniques like inflections, replacements, and restatements. This is the audio-lingual, and we've got examples of these. Based on the belief that the function of the language should be emphasized rather than the form. This is the communicative approach. Vocabulary is taught in the form of lists of isolated. This is the last one, the grammar translation. Yeah. This is the answer. Okay. This is the answer to this activity. Oh, okay. Sorry. Please follow. Go ahead. You're welcome. And have you used any of these approaches in your classes? Many times. Yes, we actually use a mix of them. We sometimes ask students to translate from L1 or to L1 and to the target language and from the target language. Sometimes we give them drills. Yes, sometimes we give them drills, sometimes we give them communicative approach, we give them to practice. So it's a mixture. Yes. So in fact, all these theoretical schools of second language acquisitions evolved for reasons. For each stage, there was a reason for this method to emerge and to be used. Okay? But nowadays, we use a mix of all these.